Hi, I'm Christopher Willey. I'm going to be taking you through the mounting demo for the 118 pixel project and any other project that you need to get mounted that's going to be 2D. So at UWM, we use a couple materials to mount. We have this big piece of paper that's actually sticky on both sides. We call this speed mount. We're going to be cutting that into little strips. And then we also use big black foam core, and this is straight out of the container, so we've got two nice clean edges. And from there, we've got our artwork, trippy brain with weird stuff happening behind it, hopefully, if you're doing your job right. And then we've got a cutting mat, some new blades, cork back ruler. This is important so that the ruler doesn't kind of scoot around on you, and paper and pencil for a graph. So first things first, when doing any kind of mount, it's good to just plan out what it is, the cuts that you're going to be making. So in this case, my overall image, if I was to measure that bad boy out, here, I've got just under 10 inches. So that's going to be 9 and, let's see, 5/8. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7/8. Okay, and then that goes by it's just at 16 inches. So I want to add an inch to both sides of 9.78, or 9 7/8 and 16 inches. To do that, it's really easy to start thinking, okay, so if this is 9 inches, that's 16 inches. All I need to do is add an inch and an inch, so I'm at 17 and 10 7/8. And that is an easy mistake to make, but you've got an inch on both sides, and that's part of what the requirement of the first year program show is, to make sure that you have an inch all the way around. So that's another reason I like to have the diagrams as just a reminder. 9 7/8, inch, 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 and lastly an inch. So that means we've got, of course, 18 inches total one way, and then 11 7/8 inches the other way. So with that diagram, I'm ready to rock and roll. I've got my schematic. I know the measurements that I need to take, and one of the things that you can think about is measuring twice and cutting once. Just going to double check that 9 7/8 measurement, that it's that all the way through, because it seems like it's a little bit more than that. Yeah, it is. If you want to get in here and take a close look at that, that is actually 9 15/16. So it's really specific. But that's why you measure it twice. Alrighty, before you start cutting the foam core, I recommend that you cut the speed mount down. And I like cutting the speed mount down into a couple strips. Don't worry about the length of these strips, just cut it the shorter way across this for now. So you have at least 4 of those strips kind of sitting in reserve. And then when it comes to cutting the mat, what I'm going to have you do is look at this edge. And as long as this edge isn't ratty, and in this case this is a nice clean edge because it just came out of the box, I can use this edge and I can trust that this is straight. So that's really helpful. And now my longer cut is 16 inches, or actually is 18 inches, and my shorter cut's 11. So I want to take less space from this to allow someone else to be able to use the rest of this foam core later on. So I want to have my 11 7/8 inch cut here, and then I'll get my 16 inch cut out of this. And I know, I'm sorry, my 18 inch cut out of that. Just to verify that I've got enough. 18 is the length of this little ruler, so that'll be really easy for those measurements. So I'm going to have just a little bit of space out of here, and that'll leave the rest of this for someone else to use. Now, I have seen students other professionals in the past make a score right all the way down through and have that be their mark. But the problem with that is you've got to erase it or make sure that the back side is where those marks go and then you mount to the front side. I just think it's extra work. So what I try to do is keep things as little as possible in terms of what's happening to the actual surface when I'm putting marks down. So just to verify, I need to put two 11 and 15/16 inch marks on this side. So I'm going to put one around here and one around here. 11, 15/16 is that little itty bitty guy. And I've just got this butted up against the end. Do that one more time over here. 11, 15/16. Cool. And I'm going to put little arrows, just a tiny little arrow that can be easily erased later on by someone else, the next person who's going to use it. But that way I know that that's the side that I want to protect, or that's the side that's going to be open, and I'm going to protect the other side when I make my cut. And for this cut, I'm going to cut all the way through, and I'm going to use this at an angle to make this cut, because I just don't have a bigger mat down here. But this, as long as I can see the mat on both sides, I'm okay with this. Now, let's talk about cutting for a second. The deal is, you want to have a really sharp blade. If you don't have a sharp blade, or you've got a blade that's been recently used, take a peek at that. So it's kind of, this actually looks like it's got gum stuff on it, and yeah, that's no good. So you want to get rid of those kind of blades as soon as possible. Look for your sharp spots around the room. You can wrap this in a piece of tape. In this case, I'm just going to hand it to my trusty assistant. Thank you. Don't cut yourself. Anyway. So I'm going to grab just a brand new blade. I don't know, I'm kind of a snob. I like to cut with a brand new blade, especially with foam core, because this stuff, it doesn't play nicely. What I mean by that is it tends to, even though you think you've got it cut, it's not cut all the way, and you've got to make a couple more draws before it's finally set. So I'm going to make sure that this is nice and tight. There's no wiggle in there. And now I'm ready to go. So when I hold my blade, I see a lot of people do weird things with their body when they hold their blade and they make these cuts. What you want to do is you want to get your body so that it's right over the area that you're going to cut, not cutting this way or this way. I've seen some weird things happen. You want to have it so that your cut's here and here, and you're just pulling straight down so that this motion is the motion that you're making, which is more ergonomic than this motion. So once I've got this set, I'll kind of start to get things placed here. The other thing is where you put the blade and how you hold the blade in your hand. I've seen some people hold it like a pencil, and that's great if you're cutting paper and a lot of minute, finite, detailed things. But these are big, long, straight, heavy pressured cuts. So what I like to do in this instance is I like to kind of put this edge right in the palm of my hand, hold it with my fingers, and put all the pressure with my index finger right on this grippy part, not on the blade part, but the grip. And that way I can let all of the weight from my elbow come right down through my cut. Next, just to make sure that my mat's all good. Now what I'm going to do is line up my two dots. I know that they're both at 11 inches. If you're not sure and you got longer, you can put more dots along the way and just make sure they're all lined up. And as you can see here, I only need to make an 18-inch cut. So I'm just going to start right above, and if you can get really close here, I'm going to have my blade so that it's right up against, and as I draw through, I don't have any weird off angles that are coming. I'm just going to let this blade be the barrier or the guide for the actual marks. I'm not actually cutting right now. The other thing I want you to pay very close attention to are where your fingers are. If your fingers are crossing that, that's not a good idea. You're going to take the tip off of it, because when it comes to skin versus blade, blade wins every single time. So be very careful about that part. I really don't want to see you cut yourself. And on that, maybe while you're cutting, don't have good conversations, don't watch your favorite movie, don't do anything else but cut. So with that in mind, got everything set I need to have. I'm going to start by just pushing that first score in and bringing it down. Now, I want to act a bit like a robot. I'm just walking my fingers down at this point. I don't want to move this guide whatsoever, and I want to try to emulate that mark again that I just made and pull down through. And I'm just going to keep doing it for a while. You might have just heard that little crack towards the end. I am getting close to breaking the other side, but I haven't broken it all the way through yet. Yeah, that's really good. All right, so for this part, when I pull this up, I've got a really nice solid cut here. Now I need to measure my other side. I know that it's 18 inches exactly. So I'm just going to put two little holes, two little notches here and here. Do the same exact thing. This time I don't need the arrows. Oh, you always want to cut so that you're protecting the side of the foam core that's going to be mounted. Heard it crack yet. There it is. And here is my perfectly cut, perfectly measured foam core. I hope that it goes this well for you, and if you follow those tips, getting a new sharp blade, putting light even pressure and cutting until you hear the little cracks, you should be good to go. And now we have all of this extra space for someone else to be able to use. So I'm going to give this to you again. Fantastic. Now we get into the next step, which is, I actually don't need this right now. I'm just going to set that over here. Essentially just making sure that things look good as I place my art on my overall mat here. Looking all right. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to measure in an inch on one side and then the other, and then at least give myself a little indicator where the other side's going to be. So just going to go ahead and do that part, and that's going to give me guides to where I'm going to be putting down the strips of speed mount. And I usually just take the inch side of the ruler, throw it in there, and just give myself a little dot. And I don't want to get too close to the edges. Do those arrows again so I know which edge I'm actually dealing with. And I'm putting it on the side and the bottom. You can choose to put it on whatever side you want. All right. Last couple. And in this case, I only need to just do the one. So I have a general indicator of where those things are going. And I can have bigger marks inside here because that's going to be eventually covered up with the art anyway. Alrighty, so look at things here. Right now what I'm doing is lining up these two on this side and then making sure that they also line up over here. There. There we are. Good. Okay, so I know that that looks good. An inch all the way around. I'm happy. Cool. Now we're going to do the same thing with the strips. Now you want to think about the strips to diagram this out for you very quickly. Think about the strips as L's that you're going to place behind the artwork. So we're going to be putting these two guys in here. So one L is going to be this way, the other L is going to be that way. Connected. But then the whole thing basically is going to be mounted around the edges. This isn't an archival process. This isn't a process that a lot of photographers use, but it's a process that we use, and it's an effective process for the materials that we have. Okay, so just going to quickly cut these down just a little bit. You don't have to be terribly precise with this part. You can eyeball that. Okay, it's going to be the first L. Doesn't need to be too much longer than that. Second. Okay. Probably can get away with using this as the third. Alrighty. And then the fourth long one goes all the way across to here. Okay, and these extra little pieces that you get on the edge, you can throw those in the middle if you'd like to have a little bit more tackiness towards the middle of your print, but that's up to you. Now what you want to do, before you start setting these down and thinking about getting these two things to play together, you want to prep these by making a minuscule fold one way, and then a minuscule fold the other way, and kind of peeling it back just a little bit. And this is how you can get that paper to peel apart, and it will also give you the ability to snag it in the once you've laid it down to pull off the other bit. So go through and do that for each, and then lay them all down together. Okay. Now with this stuff, you don't want it to bubble as you lay it down. You also don't want weird overlaps where it's been folded. You want this to be as flat as possible, because otherwise it's going to show up in the final print as like an embossing effect, and that might not be what you're going for. In fact, it's probably not. Okay. Cool. Alrighty. Get this out of the way. I don't think I need it anymore. Alright. So now you want to get these L's pretty close together on one side and on the other. Okay, I think that's going to be good. Now, when you lay them out, you only take one strip off at a time. Hopefully you won't have to deal with static electricity. You don't want this tape to go outside of those two marks that you made at the beginning when you were measuring in by an inch. So what I like to do is start with one edge and then just run my finger right across it. That way it doesn't get any of that weirdness, and I still have that little flipped part where I can peel it up. Some weirdness there. Alright. This should be good. Let's do the other L. fast. Okay, now you might have the inclination to pull these off right away. And as much fun as it is to pull that, that's not a good idea. You only want to pull one off after you've got it mounted properly. So I'm just going to do one in the center here. Good one. Okay. All right. So now, if you remember, I edged these two really closely. And this is going to be my hinge bracket, which means when I set this down, this is my bottom, this is my side, I'm going to have it set here like this. Once I've got it perfectly oriented, I'll hold it down, pick up a side, pull that off, let it drop. Now it's stable enough that I can hold it up this way, pull off all the other hinges, and then just let it drop the other way, and then you're done. So that's where we're going from here on. Make sure it's here. Okay, looks good all the way around. Okay. Let's try again, shall we? Now there's really no coming back from this, so at this step right there, if you mess that up, you get to start again. It's no fun, but it's the truth. Now that you're here though, we're really close to being able to just hold it up and pull off all of these other little tapes. Now this one that's over here in the corner, that becomes sometimes an issue. So grab this other edge. Just lift that up. Okay. Sometimes it's nice to have a friend help with this part. Just so that they can hold the paper or they can peel the tape. Whatever your friend feels like doing. Alright. Now just take your hand and slowly push your image down so that there's no bubbles. And there you go. That's how you mount. Cool. So good luck. Happy mounting. If you've got any questions, ask your instructor, ask your SI, ask myself. Thanks much, everyone.